Hey, welcome to Mooney Reads. My name is Beck, and today I'm going to be talking about my reading plans for the month of December. I don't know if this is going to come out first or my wrap-up, but if you see my wrap-up, yes, this is the same mug. It is the same day. I just put on a sweatshirt because it's night now. I'm participating in 2 readathons in December. Both of them are week-long readathons. The first one is the Queerlit Readathon, which I think runs from the 5th through the 11th. And then the other readathon that I'm going to be doing is the 24/7 readathon that focuses on catching up. The 24/7 catch-up readathon. I'm actually co-hosting that. Lesba Reader puts together a bunch of 24/7 readathons on Instagram. And I'm helping them with that one. So it should be a lot of fun. That one is the last week of December. So I'll start off talking about my Queerlit TBR, then we'll go on to other books that I want to read, and then at the end I'll talk about all the books that I could possibly read for the catch-up readathon, because it is just an unholy amount of books that I have partially read. Oh, are you leaving now? You don't like being held like that. Literally the only place she can step over here is on a computer or piles of books. Not really sure what she's trying to do. Trying to knock stuff over. That's okay. To start off with, the Queerlit Readathon has a bingo board. That's the word. And most of the books that I have here fit something on the bingo board. Not totally sure if I have a bingo or not, but we'll see. So one of the things with the books that I picked for December is I'm trying to find shorter books, because my reading in November was like nothing over 100 pages, I don't think. Unless maybe the manga has over 100 pages. But even then, it's a graphic novel manga type situation. So, I'm trying to do short things. I'm also trying to do things that are less emotionally intensive. Last month, a lot of the stuff that I started and then didn't get to finish was intense. It was about the AIDS epidemic, colonialism, classism, like a bunch of sad shit because the world feels like it's on fire. So I'm, at the very least at the beginning of the month, going to try to read some stuff not about the world being on fire, in regards to nonfiction anyways. I'm going to try to chill. No guarantees. That being said, I have 2 books that are like normal sized, over 100 pages long, that aren't graphic novels that I think I'm going to try to focus in on that week, and these are going to be my main focuses, so hopefully I can get them done. First, I have a fantasy book, Country of Ghosts by Margaret Kiljoy. This was an arc given to me by the publisher. I'm not totally sure if the characters are queer or not, but the author is trans-feminine. I'll just read you the back. Demos Haraki is a Barolean journalist and a cynical patriot. His muckraking days are behind him. But when his newspaper ships him to the front lines of war, he's embedded in the Imperial Army, and the reality of colonial expansion is laid bare before him. His adventures take him from villagers and homesteads to the great refugee city of Hernopol, built of glass, steel, and stone, all while a war rages around him. The Empire fights for coal and iron, but anarchists of Haran fight for their way of life. A Country of Ghosts is a novel of utopia besieged in a tale that challenges every premise of contemporary society. So, anarchy and fantasy. Maybe it does touch on some of the stuff that was giving me anxiety, but it's in fantasy form, so maybe I'll still be fine. So far as the readathon goes, A Country of Ghosts fits the prompts. I'm gonna say for punk, because anarchist fantasy sounds punk to me. I don't know anything about punk genres, but I'm making that call based on vibes alone. Seasonal, because ghosts are spooky. This cover is spooky. Based on vibes, we're going with seasonal. And for the question mark prompt, we're gonna say an arc. And this is also fantasy. So, It fits that prompt as well. So that looks like it's going to be cool. The other one that I have that I'd like to focus on is a nonfiction. And that is The Natural Mother of the Child by Krys Malcolm Beck. And this is a memoir that focuses on the author's experience of becoming a parent as a non-binary person. I'll just read you a piece of the blurb because that could say it better than I could. Krys Malcolm Bell has thought a lot about the interplay between parenthood and gender. As a non-binary transmasculine parent giving birth to his son Samson clarified his gender identity. And yet when his partner Anna adopted Samson, the legal documents listed Belc as the natural mother of the child. By considering how the experiences contained under the umbrella of motherhood don't fully align with Belc's own experience, the natural mother of the child journeys both towards and through common perceptions of what it means to have a body and how that body can influence the perception of a family. So this incorporates, I think, documents and pictures along with the text. I do have the audiobook, so I'm hoping that if I put them together, maybe my brain cells will be able to do something so that I can actually get through this fairly well. The main thing that pulled me in, like this cover, like along with the title, I don't know, this is just a very pretty book to me. With the readathon prompts, The Natural Mother of the Child is going to fit rainbow. We have lots of colors on there. Joy. This is looking at parenthood. I imagine that there will be some discussion of joy in here. And beyond LGBT, because the author is non-binary. Now, so far as the rest of Queer Lit Readathon is concerned, I have options. I don't know which ones I'll be using. So those two are guarantee. Well, as much as a book on any of my TBRs can be a guarantee. So those are ones that I would really like. And those are, in theory, the highest priority. The rest of these, I'm hopefully going to read at least one of them. We'll do that. I've got poetry and graphic novels. I still have not finished my fucking read-through of Mooncakes. I don't know why. It's super cute. It's seasonal. I'll probably listen to it, or I'll probably read it while listening to Christmas music. So, that's just fun. So I've got that one. The other graphic novel that I have is The Girl from the Sea, which is another one that's like seasonal in the wrong season because this is definitely summer, but I don't care because it's Gay Mermaids. Then the others that I have are poetry collections. Feed by Tommy Pico was on my TBR last month. Didn't get to finish it, or didn't get to read it at all, so maybe I'll get to it this month. After the Witch Hunt was on my September TBR, I think, and October. No, only October, not September. I just got my months backwards because my brain is full of holes, I think. Today has just not been a day that my brain has worked. I don't think really my brain has worked for a while, so it's fine. The other poetry collection that I have is Shame is an Ocean I Swim Across by Mary Lambert. I've had this for a while. It's sad and gay. I don't know if sad is the vibe to go on when I just talked about, like, not wanting serious stuff, but, like, a little bit of angst isn't the same thing as straight up reading people's personal accounts of dealing with the AIDS epidemic. So I'm thinking that this could be more cathartic than traumatizing. Anyways, those are my options. Oops, not from the other side, that's from last month. These are the options. Ooh. Hopefully probably we'll read at least one for the Queer Lit Readathon. Now, whichever one of these I don't read for the Queer Lit Readathon, hopefully I'll get to some other time in the month. I make no promises ever about TBRs. So far as the rest of the month goes, before the 5th and between the 11th and the 25th, I'll maybe read those, but I also would like to possibly read some of these. Assuming I finish A Country of Ghosts, I would like to read All Systems Red by Martha Wells, which has been on the past 2 or 3 TBRs that I've had. Still have not gotten to it, but I really want to. so hopefully I'll get to that one. I have a manga, Love on the Other Side. This is a short story collection by the same person who wrote Girl from the Other Side. I think this is supposed to be pretty cute. The back of the book says, love comes in many forms. A magnificent bird comforts a struggling girl. A vampire waltzes with a young lady at night. A blind girl lives with a monster of whom there is more than meets the eye. This 6-story manga collection by masterful manga creator Nagabe explores fascinating relationships that refuse to be confined. So, this sounds super cute, so hopefully I'll be able to read it. And then the final short book that I might read is Some Things I Still Can't Tell You by Misha Collins. I honestly don't 100% know what this is going to be like. I'll be really honest and transparent about what kind of trash I am. He mentioned the possibility of some of these being from Castiel's perspective. That is Castiel from Supernatural, whom Misha Collins plays. That's the main reason I got it. Also, Misha seems like a cool guy, so, like, I picked up his poetry. I never finished Supernatural, but 2015, I was Supernatural garbage. And some things just never go away. So I have Misha Collins' poetry collection, and hopefully it will be good. Other things that I'd like to do, this book I am not going to finish, but I hope to read a couple things out of. Lessons in Liberation, which I think I also got from AK Press, which was the same people who gave me Country of Ghosts. It says, an abolitionist toolkit for educators. So, this is not a book I'm going to sit and read from cover to cover. I might read the first couple essays. I might just go with what sounds most interesting first. I don't know, but I'd like to read it, or read pieces of it. Now, should I add more books to this TBR? No. However, there are 3 books that, like, if I could have them read by the end of the year, I would. I probably won't. If I get to any of them, it's probably going to be this first one. What You're Getting Wrong About Appalachia by Elizabeth Catte. Like the title suggests, this talks about Appalachia and a lot of the misconceptions. Specifically, what J.D. Vance talks about in A Hillbilly Elegy. If you've read Hillbilly Elegy, please read this. I haven't read it yet, but J.D. Vance is garbage. So don't read Hillbilly Elegy if you haven't. Read this instead. I've been really excited to read this, and it's short, so I think that if I read any nonfiction other than the memoir and poetry, I guess, that I've talked about, it's probably going to be this one. And then another book that I've been really excited about, but, you know, it depends on my mood, depends on the moon, the wind, whatever shifts my reading, I don't really know. Becoming Abolitionists, Police Protest in the Pursuit of Freedom by Derica Purnell. I've had this since it came out. This was one that I don't think I technically pre-ordered it, but I ordered it into the bookstore that I work at in order to buy it as soon as humanly possible. So I'm excited about it. Will I get to it? Literally, who knows, but if I wind up really wanting to get into the topic of abolition, especially if I read, you know, parts of Lessons in Liberation that might inspire me to focus on something like that, I do have this book. This is not my only book on this topic. The other books I've had for longer, so I probably should read them first, but, you know, the heart wants what it wants, and I don't really know why, so that's what we have. So, finally, we have the catch-up readathon. And I have a lot of books that I am part of the way through. I know that there are some books that I started and sat down that I do not have over here. Some of them I've probably completely forgotten. Or at least don't have in mind right now. None of the books that I've started and stopped have been bad. I'm just a very finicky mood reader. and sometimes have problems concentrating, and that makes it to where I have lots of unfinished books. So the one that I most want to finish is Dear Senthuran by Akwaeke Emezi. This was highly anticipated by me. I highly anticipated this book, and the writing is fucking beautiful. I love Akwaeke Emezi. All 3 of their books that I read last year made it to various number 1 slots, I think, or tied. Maybe with the exception of Pet. It didn't make it to number 1, but it was on my top 10 list. This is beautiful so far, but I was reading it at a time when, like, my brain just had a really hard time processing very beautiful, like, poetic writing, which is what this is. So hopefully I'll be able to wrap my brain around it this month. And then if I had one fiction that I could finish before the end of the month, it's going to be Polar Vortex by Shani Mootoo. Again, my brain just stopped. And it's weird that it did it with this book, because I think the majority of what I have read, I actually read in one sitting, because it's very compelling. The chapters are short. It's very, it's a very engaging book. My brain's just broken, so I'd like to finish it. So if I read nothing else in the catch-up readathon, hopefully it will be these, or if I want to start them before, I'm not going to stop myself and save them, because boy, do I have some other books I could read for that. So if I finish those before that readathon, or if my brain decides to go in another direction, these are hopefully most of the books that I'm in the middle of, that in a perfect world I would have finished. So first we have the books that I started and stopped recently. ML Basic Course. I mean, it's exactly what the title says. It's about Marxism. It's not very hard to get through. Brain's just broken. We've got An Indigenous People's History of the United States, which is excellent so far. Between Certain Death and a Possible Future. Queer Writing on Growing Up During the AIDS Crisis. So this is written by people who were teenagers in like the early 90s. So they didn't know life before the AIDS epidemic. So, and that they grew up with AIDS and queerness kind of being talked about in conjunction with each other. It's fucking beautiful so far. I love it, but it is extremely hard to read. Emotionally. Then we have Let the Record Show by Sarah Schulman, which I've talked about several times. There's no way in hell I'm finishing this book, but if I could work on it a little bit by the end of the month, that'd be great. Then we have other books that I started at various points this year. Universal Harvester by John Darnielle. Actually, I think I started this last year, but it was on some TBRs this year. Or at least the October TBR. Maybe I'll finish this. Honestly, if I'm gonna read a thriller, I'm probably gonna finish Moon of the Crusted Snow first. So if I finish this one, and I'm still in that mood, I will finish Universal Harvester. Don't know if I'll get to either of them, but that's a possibility. That's a trajectory that can happen. I've got Essays and Speeches by Audre Lorde, which is beautiful. It's great. At some point I decided to turn it into a slow read, which turned into a setting it down for months. So hopefully I can pick this back up, or at least read some of it. I'm past the halfway point. It's totally doable that I could read the last, third of this. We'll see what happens. I've got Darius the Great Is Not Okay. I started this, I got to page 38. So maybe I'll read that. Probably not, if I'm being honest. But if I get on a YA kick, which it's... Okay, that's a lie. I read Iron Widow in October. That was fantasy, which is not what I usually read. But other than that, I feel like it's been a while since I've read a contemporary YA, which is weird because that's, I really enjoy that. So if I end up getting on a kick for that, I'm going to read this, or I have like 3 arcs. Well, I have a lot more than 3 arcs. But there are 3 arcs in particular that are or 2 that are YA contemporaries, 1 that's actually like fantasy, but it's, I think supposed to be wholesome. And I might get to, at least a couple of them my coworkers are probably going to want to read if I bring the arc back to the store, so like maybe I should focus on those, but I've just not been in that mood. Another book that I might read, another book that I started this year that I did not finish. This is How You Lose the Time War. A fan favorite, BookTube's one of the BookTube Bookternet sweethearts. I made it to page 22. This, I think I read around the same time that I read Dear Senthuran. Beautiful poetic writing. Brain could not process it. If I get in a big mood after I read all the poetry, and Akwaeke Emezi's book. I'm going to read that first before I get into any of these, I think. But that would be nice in theory. And then finally, We Want It All, an anthology of radical trans poetics, which I was very excited to get when I bought it. But I don't think that I've really read that much of it since National Poetry Month. So maybe I'll get into this. Maybe some of those other poetry collections will skyrocket me into wanting to read these. Probably not. This whole last part of the video is just an exploration into just how often my brain has completely stopped working when it comes to books. So this is really only a fraction of the real issue here. But that's fine. That's fine. Hopefully I'll read something this month. That's the goal. At least something. That's the TBR. If you've read any of these, let me know in the comments below. If there's one of these you think I should prioritize, also let me know in the comments below. And thank you all so much for watching. Bye.